Okay, hello and welcome to the video. My name is Wade Smith, and this video is about the Isshinryu Megami patch concealing a combined submission striking style in plain sight, and the fact that this style of fighting is virtually never seen in MMA, even though it definitely works for real street self-defense, and there's nothing illegal about it in principle, although the first technique I'm going to discuss is in fact banned in MMA, because it's a groin attack. But so in the Isshinryu Megami patch, the woman has one of her hands open like this, a little bit lowered, but it wouldn't fit on camera, and has the other hand raised in a hammer fist position like this or like this. But on the patch, it's like this to demonstrate the hand, the closed fist, and the open fist. Because Isshinryu is a combination of an open hand style and a closed hand style, grappling style and a striking, both a grappling style and a striking style. And so one of the moves that's actually implied in this is that when you're at grappling range, you can grab your opponent either by the belt buckle or, more importantly, by the groin, and then strike down into the nose or temple. So they can't get away. You're giving them incredible pain by grabbing them by the nuts, and you're striking into the temple or the nose. All right. And so this is what we call combined submission striking, where you use a grappling maneuver in combination with a striking maneuver. And this is a concept that you really do not see a lot of intentional use in MMA. And it could be any kind of grappling maneuver, not just a groin grab. So it could be a joint lock combined with striking, such as you get a joint lock on the opponent and you land an elbow to their face with your free elbow, or you get a joint lock on them and you knee them over and over. And that's certainly never seen in MMA because they don't know how to do joint locks correctly. Because for some reason somebody told them that joint locks don't work, and they absolutely do work. All right. So we used to call this technique, this series of techniques, combined submission striking, or combined striking for short. And if you do a deep search on Google AI, the AI knows what that term means, even though the commentators in MMA never use that term. And then I asked the AI, why do the commentators never use that term, even though it's something that's taught in real martial arts? And the AI is like that the commentators don't want to confuse the audience. What? How stupid is the audience then? You know? Uh, Me, whenever I'm as the audience on any topic of interest, I want to know the expert level terminology and the expert level knowledge of the topic. It doesn't matter if I'm watching the Weather Channel or if I'm watching a fight. I want to know what the experts know. Okay? And you should be that way as both a participant in martial arts and an observer in martial arts. You should want to know what the experts know. So, just as an example, when some kind of punch comes in, whether it's a straight punch, it could be the right cross, or it could be a right hook punch. When a punch comes in and you block it, and you should grapple it because that gives you control of your opponent's momentum. You can then throw them or joint lock them or grapple and punch. So um, one of the Isshinryu katas, incidentally, the name of the kata actually means grapple and destroy. So you grapple their arm and pull them into a straight punch. In a self-defense situation, you might pull them into a straight punch to the throat or the face or whatnot, or the solar plexus. In a prize fight, you obviously can't punch to the throat, but you can certainly punch to the solar plexus or the liver, or you can punch to the head, or let's say if it's a left hook. Let's say if they throw a left hook, and it doesn't matter if they're orthodox or southpaw, but if they throw their left hook, all right, you catch the left hook and you punch under the armpit, above the rib cage, but under the armpit. And this is an attack on their lungs and heart. It can literally stop the heart. It can disrupt their breathing, which is a really good body blow for both for self-defense and for prize fighting, because it disrupts their breathing and their blood flow. All right. Uh, and so that's a combination of a grappling move. You're going to catch them and lock their arm out, and then you're going to punch under the armpit, preferably with a good straight right cross. All right. And that's actually the bunkai of Seisan, because whereas in Seisan Kata, you open with something like, I forget, it's been 26 years since I did Seisan on a regular basis. But the first three techniques are a punch and a block, a punch and a block, a punch and a block in a straight line. But in a real fight, when you punch and block, you're going to step away from the person at a diagonal. All right. And when you block, you might grapple that arm and then throw another punch. So you're combining a grappling maneuver with a striking maneuver. And in principle, the first fight I got into, self-defense situation I was in, I forget whether it was in junior high school. But anyway, there was this much bigger kid that was bullying the hell out of me, which is why I joined martial arts in the first place. And eventually, one of my sensei instructors, taught me how to beat him and got me enough confidence that I could fight back. And I did beat him. And he was about 50 pounds bigger than me in the seventh grade. And because I had not hit my peak growth, but obviously in the seventh grade, and I was actually a smaller than average seventh grader because I was a year or two younger than everybody in the seventh grade. Anyway, what I ended up doing to beat him is exactly what the sensei told me to do. It was almost scripted, and it worked exactly. It almost worked too well. I punched him in the I blocked his punch with my left, and I punched him in the solar plexus, and then I punched him again in the face, and then I stepped through, just like in the kata, and did Ippon Seoinage and threw him over my shoulder onto the pavement, uh, which is judo. By the way, Ippon Seoinage is if you do it correctly in judo competition, you automatically win the competition. Um, so you automatically win the match. And if you do it correctly in a real fight, you automatically win the real fight, especially on pavement, because it almost knocked the kid out. And uh, incidentally, even though I did not start the fights and had been bullied by this kid for months before I finally stood up for myself, um, I got suspended, and he did not get suspended because I was karate fighting. So how do you like that? That the person who was getting the snot beat out of him every day for 3 months in a row, the teachers wouldn't do anything about it. But as soon as I defended myself, I got suspended. So and I did. I told the assistant principal, the disciplinarian principal. I called him because he was like, "Oh, he would never do that. That kid would never do that." And I was like, "You're a." I told the disciplinarian straight up I wouldn't, but 11 or 12 years old, whatever the case. And I was like, "You're a damn liar." It was my response to him. But the point of this is it was a combination of striking and grappling. All right. So you so it was a grapple the arm when he threw a punch, grapple his arm, punch to the solar plexus, pulling him into the solar plexus punch, punched again to the face, pulling him into the punch to the face, step through Ippon Seoinage. All right. Um, and like I say, he hit the pavement pretty hard. It almost knocked him out. Probably could have knocked him out had I done it even better. But after that, he never came within 100 yards of me again for the next 5 years in school. So it must have knocked some sense into him. Uh, But the good one is when you get a joint lock on somebody and you knee strike them over and over again to the abdomen. It could be the groin, it could be the solar plexus, it could be the belly, it could be the bladder, it could be pulling their face down into knee strikes when they're joint locked. Uh, could be kneeing them in the liver, kidneys, depending on what the orientation of the body is. And supposing that you get side arm control with a reverse wrist lock, this is much harder to do against a skilled attacker. It works against white belts and below, but it as a general rule, by the time somebody's like light green belt, it should stop working on them because they should be competent enough not to give up their back by the time they're a light green belt in karate. But you get a reverse wrist lock on somebody and you lock out their arm like so, and then you can kick their legs out, you can kick their side, you can knee them in the ribs, whatnot. You're not going to see that in MMA very often. In fact, I've never actually seen it, even though it's there. The reason you're not going to see it is because the fighters are in fact trained enough not to give up their back or their side arm control that easily. Which is why I say it should not work against somebody from light green belt upward. It just shouldn't. If it does, they did something really bad. All right. You need a variety of techniques because you never know what your opponent knows in a real fight. And also, you never know what your opponent's body composition and strengths and weaknesses are. And some joint locks don't work as well against some people as other joint locks do. It's not that joint locks don't work, it's that some people are, in fact, naturally resistant to the first one or two that you try on them. And you might need a third or fourth joint lock to finish them off. And then, there's always the objection on when people make these teaching videos on actual joint locks. There's always the objection, well, your opponent's not going to just stand there. He might throw another punch or an elbow or a kick or knee or whatever. Of course he will. When I'm cranking on him and providing level 10 pain to his wrist, of course he's going to try to resist, but if he resists, it's only going to make it hurt worse. If he throws a punch at me, I still have an elbow free, and I can raise the elbow to block here if he tries to throw a straight punch or a hook punch with his opposite hand while I'm locking him down with this hand. I still have in this hand. All right, let's say I still have an elbow that I can block with here. I can block a hook punch or a straight punch here. I can block if he throws a punch to my ribs or my body. I can block with that free elbow. All right. So, of course, he's going to try to throw a punch, but of course, I'm just going to crank that much harder on his wrist until it either breaks or until he gives up. All right. But that's why it's combined striking, because once I get the lock on him, I'm going to throw knees to his abdomen. I'm going to pull his face down into a knee strike somehow. And, unlike UFC fighters, I don't need to be told by my corner when to throw a knee or an elbow or a punch or a kick, because I already know it because I have thousands of hours of practice. I guarantee you, if you had to be told to keep your guard up or be told when to throw a punch, a knee, or an elbow or a kick in a sparring, you didn't get your next belt promotion on time in Sensei's dojo. If he had to tell you keep your guard up all the time, you didn't get a belt promotion again. Because he had one student that was stuck from the previous instructor 10 years earlier, was stuck as a purple belt for 10 consecutive years, even though you're only supposed to need about 4 months to get the next promotion. But because she never came to class and didn't practice enough and never really improved at all at fighting, he stopped promoting her. And he was like, he flat out told her, I'm never promoting you again unless you really show some kind of improvement. Because he told her in front of everybody one time. Because she only came to class like once or twice a month. And after that, and it was like, she probably never should have been promoted to purple belt, but he's not the instructor who promoted her to purple belt. Her previous instructor 10 years earlier had promoted her to purple belt. And it's like, she couldn't fight. And you can memorize all the kata you want, but if you can't fight, it's not doing you any good. You can memorize all the bunkai you want, and if you can't apply it in a real fight, it's not doing you any good. And unfortunately, a lot of bunkai techniques only work on unskilled fighters. I mean, a lot of them work on skilled fighters too, but a lot of them you're not likely to get on a skilled fighter unless you've already beaten the hell out of them to begin with. So, but I was told by a then second degree black belt assistant instructor, whenever I was, whatever it was, 12 years old, 11 or 12 years old, that the simple front wrist lock, that's all it is right there, and torque, that the simple front wrist lock works on about 90% of all fighters, and in fact can win about 90% of all black belt versus black belt fights. And yet it's taught at yellow belt in Isshinryu karate, and it's the very first submission you will ever learn in Isshinryu karate. So people don't realize, and it would work in MMA gloves. I have a set of 5-ounce gloves around here somewhere. I'm not sure what I did with them. I must have misplaced them somewhere, but I haven't used them in a while. But it works in MMA gloves, so it has nothing to do with the taping of your wrists or anything like that. If it doesn't work, you're not doing it right.